On this grand old day when mobs of people will jam St. Paul's Grand Avenue, we here at Humble Moron Sunday have chosen a path less traveled. We'd like to have you join us now as we stroll through a St. Paul neighborhood whose name you probably have never heard. A few trains still roll through Railroad Island, but the neighborhood isn't what it used to be. In its glory days, you couldn't come or go through this tiny patch of East Side St. Paul without crossing tracks.
In fact, I went to sleep with the train whistle.
Mike Sancelli's father, like countless other Italian immigrants, worked on the rails, earning 50 cents a day. The Sancellis lived in Swede Hollow, down in the creek, as they put it, where all the families used outhouses built on stilts over the water.
And see, that was like a great big family there. There was all Italians there. And that's where these neighborhoods were, too.
Lots of kids, lots of memories.
And if our parents wanted us to get up on the steps up there and holler, "Polly!"
To find out more about the old neighborhood, the East Side Arts Council organized this reminiscence night.
And even some of the women.
Didn't take much for historian Margot Fortunato Galt to get people talking about everything from favorite recipes for ricotta lemon pie.
And each pie I use a dozen and a half eggs.
To stories of Christmas past.
Phil Carletta used to have the accordion. They go from the house to house singing. Oh. And it was really, we missed that because now it's not the same. I don't, maybe our mothers and fathers are gone or something, but it's not the same anymore.
You're missing the people, actually.
Mike Sancelli remembers a landscape long gone, before East 7th Street was widened and not quite so steep.
If you take a horse from here to go to Hope Street, he would have died of a heart attack. And the cars that they made in those days never made it up to Mounds Boulevard because they would clunk out.
Prego, signori, prego.
He remembers the days of corner grocers.
He used to pile 200 or 300 cases of grapes around August, September for the Italians that they would make their wine. And he would leave it out there all night, even though he slept upstairs. But all night they'd stay out there. Nobody would touch them.
And Prohibition, when his uncle made moonshine.
But I could see him put the alcohol on a spoon, and they would light it with a match, and I could see my uncle say, "Boy, that's a good stuff. That's a good stuff." My mother threatened to turn him in, because my mother says, "We want no one up," because if you got caught making moonshine, you got a year and a day in jail. So they had made about 8 gallons, so she took the 8 gallons and hit him, and she dispensed it very cautiously. One shot a day. It lasted a long time.
Mr. Sancelli can still point to the house where his uncle buried the still in the basement. The house is gone, destroyed. Like much of Swede Hollow and Lincoln Elementary, where 2 generations of Sancellis attended school.
Right here. That's me. Here's my boy right here. Oh, yeah. That's Steve. 1954.
And they've torn the building down, and I can look out my window and still see that school.
Just as others can still see the racing pigeons some of the Railroad Island residents raised.
And there's a lot of feeding, a lot of care. They got more medicines than my children ever got. I have 5 children.
All that's left are memories, pictures of celebrations past, and mementos, like these old issues of the World War II Chatterbox, put together by the same community center that organized the children's Christmas pageants.
And every month, every serviceman would get a newsletter letting them know where their buddies were.
The Chatterbox, like the old black and white photos, and this reminiscence night, all preserve memories of a neighborhood that lived and thrived in the glory days of trains.
I believe in local history.
Miss Carbone was like social worker, and you didn't get too much from her. If she saw that your house was nice and clean, you're rich. Eat spaghetti, she'd tell you.
Truly a fan of local history.
Yeah. The only time they talked Italian was something they didn't want us to hear.
And I think it's more and more important to capture it.
Anybody can stomp grapes, but not everybody can sing all those songs.
In some form that the community can enjoy.
These quarters were full of kids. I mean, there was kids going up and down the sidewalk, winter, summer.